episode of the Winging It Formula One podcast. We are here for the Portuguese Grand Prix preview episode, where we will delve into some of the quite big news, but news that we kind of already knew. That's been announced in the run-up to the third Grand Prix of the 2021 Formula One season. I'm Freddie Coates. I will be your host for today, and joining me as other hosts for you today are Adam Dickinson, who hasn't taken the cue to say hello, and Nigel Chu.
We don't plan these.
Nigel Chu just booed himself, so it's already going incredibly well. Adam, how are you doing?
Sound like an air hostess.
That's the point.
Oh, and it's emergency exits. I don't know, at the back of the plane on the left and right. Life rafts are, I can't think of any podcast analogies that work with a life raft, but anyway, we needed a life raft already to save this sinking podcast. Yeah, I'm good. It feels ages since we did our last podcast, but it's only been a week and a day or so. But yeah,
ages.
No, it's been more. Anyway, I'm wittering on. Had a haircut since the last one, although I had the haircut between recording the last one and it coming out. But now I have finally had a haircut, and I am no longer long-haired, which is good.
Nigel, are you going to carry on the aeroplane banter?
I mean, I don't really know what to say. I hope this podcast takes off.
Hey, do any airlines have accents in? Does Aer Lingus have an accent in? Because Portimão is the only.
Well, all the planes do. All planes do. Planes have a tail at the end, and that's like a little accent.
True. But yeah, Portimão is the only Grand Prix with a proper accent in, which is great. I mean, you can
Sao Paulo Grand Prix.
That's Interlagos. I mean, in terms of the name.
Yeah, but it's called the Sao Paulo Grand Prix.
Yeah,
it's called the Sao Paulo Grand Prix now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still called Interlagos to everyone. Say what you want about Formula E, but they are overflowing with accents, which is, it's good. And F1 has got a bit of a dearth, and I think it's the only motorsport name with a little flicky A on the top, which is good. So yeah. Speaking
of accents, let's hand back to Freddie.
Yes, my received pronunciation accent strikes through the mire. We're going to get on to probably the biggest, most effective bit of news that's been made official, which we haven't actually spoken about on this podcast. It's been been getting pushed back for a long time, and that's, we now have no excuse. It's the sprint qualifying race qualifying hour thing that's going to take place at 3 Grand Prix across the 2021 season, which is a change to the format, which is, a bold, new, brave new world for actual experimentation in the format, which people have been asking for, but probably didn't really expect this format. So I'm going to do a quick run through of the format for everyone, in case you don't know about it. So instead of the usual knockout Q1, Q2, Q3 qualifying system happening on a Saturday afternoon after 3 practice sessions, the Saturday afternoon session is going to be a 100-kilometer race with a grid set by a usual qualifying session that will take place instead of pre-practice 2 on Friday afternoon. So the weekend's going to go practice 1 for an hour, qualifying. Then there's going to be some parc fermé introduced then, but not full parc fermé regulations. There'll still be some work on the car to make practice 2 proper, but enough to make sure they don't just make qualifying cars and then race cars. So there's some correlation between that. Then after practice 2 on Saturday morning, there will be a 100-kilometer race, which is essentially a third distance race. And that will just set the grid for Sunday's race. So Sunday's full normal Grand Prix, the grid will be taken from the results of the Saturday race. There are a few little tidbits in rules. 1, 2, and 3 get 3, 2, and 1 points in the race to make it kind of interesting. Tires. Sorry,
I was just saying it's stupid. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Hey, you're getting ahead of yourself. You're right. Rein it in. You've got tire rules which are weird. So bear with me while I explain the tire rules.
Speaking of the rain,
So you will have in normal qualifying, there'll be 5 soft sets of tyres available only. So there's going to be no Q2 tyre rule that we know and bear with and tolerate, not love. So that won't be a thing. So for the race, there'll be presumably a free set of tyres. The Sunday race. For the Saturday race, there's 2 sets of tyres for the teams to choose freely. So you can get, I don't know, a medium and hard, or you can get 2 softs, and who knows how the teams are going to play that. So there's some strategic element to it, and whether you do a 1-stop or a no-stop, that kind of thing. So we're only going to see that play out in practice, and you don't really need to worry about that now. Just sort of let the teams do what they do with tyres. But yeah, that's what's happening. That's sprint qualifying. I think Nigel doesn't like it, so we're going to go to Adam first. Adam, what do you think?
To be honest, I'm reserving judgment. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think I like qualifying. I really like it in terms of how dramatic it is, and it kind of always tends to deliver on that drama. So but I guess we'll start off on the Friday. But I don't know. I think the biggest risk to me, I don't really mind too much about is it F1 or is it not F1, because Liberty decides what F1 is now. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just going to see how it goes. I guess the biggest issue for me is kind of, will there be too much repetition? Will the feature race, even though it won't be called that, probably kind of be devalued? Or I think there's that, and I guess they'll have to choose the circuits quite carefully, which I guess we'll come on to in a minute, because at some circuits the qualifying is the best part of the weekend for most races. So I think for Imola it would have been a 20 or 21 lap race.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I think I'm gonna wait and see, and if it goes well, then I think, oh, that's nice, and if it doesn't go well, I think, that's a rubbish decision. But I don't kind of feel really strongly kind of for or against it.
Nigel, you do feel strongly against it?
A little bit. Probably not. If we had this conversation about 2 months ago, I would have. But like Adam, I have come round a tiny bit to it, but I still don't really see a point to it. I mean, what is the point of this?
Is that rhetorical? Or okay?
That's the question.
I think it's just to freshen things up a bit, to give it. It's officially a trial. It's not gospel. It's, let's see how this goes. Who knows? There may be changes to the format from the first one to the second one. We don't know that. That's presumably still open. There's presumably still tweaks that could be made until then. So I think I'm with Adam. It's sort of reserved judgment. To be honest, for me, it's kind of like, it's just an extension to the race. It's just starting the race a day earlier, and then having 2 starts, basically, which is kind of interesting. It's a touch of jeopardy because you have 2 grid starts, which will be fun. I think you'll still have the hype that you will at the start of the race on Sunday. I think you'll still have the same. I think you have an interesting level of hype for Saturday that you wouldn't have had in the same way. I think it really breathes life into Friday. Definitely breathes life into Friday with the qualifying. If you've got the time to watch it, annoyingly, but if you can, you've got a qualifying session straight away on the Friday rather than 2, frankly, tedious practice sessions. And we're going to have a lot of setup decisions made from 1 hour of practice, which is also very fun. So I think there's scope for lots of ingenuity and lots of interest from it. But at the end of the day, it is just an extension to the race. It's not a reverse grid. It's not at all it shouldn't be at all mentioned in a similar vein to those kind of conversations, because what essentially it is, it's someone saying, oh, let's do a reverse grid because that will make racing way more interesting because there will be racing happening. And then someone's saying no, and they're saying, oh, what can we do? And that's why it's happening. It's like the only way you can get a change to the format is if it's completely meritocratic. And that's what this essentially is. Do
you think it is completely separate? Because I think it could pave the way. I think it might, and this isn't kind of based off talking to anyone, but it feels like it could be a step of, we'll see if Saturday races work, or kind of having a race to decide qualifying first, and then kind of that could be a stepping stone to having reverse grids later. So you're not kind of going the whole hog at once. Just something else I thought about is, I think the other thing will be audience. Like for qualifying, I think it would work well if, I mean, it's obviously difficult because it's a global sport. But if you could have qualifying, the Friday qualifying kind of in the evening after people have come home from work and whatever, and it become like a Friday night viewing, I think that would work quite well in terms of that. But obviously, you know, and a lot of other sports do that. But obviously, you can't, you know, F1 is dictated by the light and just things that don't mean you can just switch a race from day to night like that. But I think I'd be quite interested to see if they did that, or I guess for some races in the Americas, then it will kind of naturally be that anyway. So I think that might be fun.
But I think, going to your earlier point about it being sort of a stepping stone to more experimental things, I think it could well be. I think the idea of a Saturday event will really, really pique interest in viewing figures, you'd think. But yeah, you're right. Everything else is light sensitive, so it's kind of hard to negotiate. I think the main comparison we can draw is the Daytona 24 Hours this year had a sprint qualifying race. So the grid was set by people racing, basically. And that, I mean, it's entirely different in endurance, because obviously the Daytona 24 Hours is a 24-hour race. And so you have like an hour and a half race to set that. And that means it's complete sprint, which is a complete different ball game for endurance cars to the race. So if there's something like that, if it completely changes the way the race is run and is a separate race, then I think there's interest in that. If you can have just absolute pure performance pushing, like qualifying kind of racing, if that makes sense, whereas you have the sort of held back racing in the actual race, I think there's a scope for that, but it's hard to manufacture that because teams will just race how they race.
The first 45 laps of last year's British Grand Prix, which was really boring. That's what I expect these sprint races to look. I expect very little overtaking, very little action, cars 2 seconds apart for half an hour, and it won't do anything. And why on earth are they giving an extra advantage to the top three drivers? I mean, they've already got a big enough advantage. So why do they need the extra points to get?
Why do you think it will? Why do you think it will just be boring races? Why won't it be if we're on
because there's no strategical element and everyone's going to start on the same tyres?
But there isn't that. There is a strategical element because the two tyres that can be used are of anything they want.
You're not going to pit.
You can though. That's the thing. You can.
In a half an hour race, I don't see it happening.
Well, that's the thing. You don't know what's going to happen. Like, you don't know. Maybe someone goes and starts on the hards and someone starts on the softs. Then it's tense and you don't know what's going to happen until the end, do you? But this is the thing. It's got the potential of this. You can sit there being a cynic, but there's potential for things, and who knows what's going to happen. I mean, I don't think it's going to mean there's no incentive for drivers to try and race. Drivers aren't going to sit back and say, "Oh, I'm in 12th. This is cool." They're going to go, "Oh, I could be 11th," and try and be 11th.
They're not going to be able to overtake.
You don't need strategy.
Well, then if they're not going to be able to overtake, then just take that up with Formula One as a whole. That's not the sprint qualifying's fault. That's Formula One.
That's in modern F1. You can only overtake with a tyre deficit or a strategical difference. You can't if they're qualifying on
difference
pace,
in cars' pace.
Yeah, but if they're going to be qualifying on pace, then
there's more differences.
Always go to plan for every single driver. We've seen that over the last few weeks.
Qualifying doesn't go to plan. Races don't go to plan. Say you spin and you end up last. Say you crash. Yeah, there's more potential for jeopardy. I mean, I'm not saying that we have to rely on mistakes, but you're saying that cars need a tyre deficit to overtake or a pace deficit. Well, then teams will then surely try and get that deficit. Surely they'll try and do a strategy to make the car faster.
You'll be going off one practice session. You'll be going off one practice session for qualifying as well. So if you lose, if a driver bins it in FP1 or whatever, or some teams absolutely nail their plan or whatever, you'll get that advantage as well to go into qualifying. There'll be a deficit there that maybe won't be down to absolute pace in the cars, but down to teams doing better in the chance they get to run on the track. I think
I don't agree with that either, because we saw in Imola last year there was only one practice session. And
yeah, but you're always talking about, you know, not going just off one example of something, and
It's the
this
only
is
example.
that case. Yeah.
What else can we go off?
Well,
It's
when
F1.
it comes in, we'll watch it and then we'll see. But I think, you know, you can't.
Oh yeah, I'm interested. I mean, they've done it the right way. They've not introduced it for the whole season like they did or like they tried to for elimination qualified in 2016. They've done it the right way. I'll give them that. I just don't see many positives to it, because in V8 supercars they did, and our friend Will Holmes will know this. Shout out to him. They did this format called a 60-60. So they race for 60 kilometers, stop the race, and start the race again and do another 60 kilometers, and it was awful. So I'm fully expect the same thing here, if not for it to be even worse, really. So yeah, I just don't. There's nothing drawing me to it, other than the free tire choice on the Sunday. I quite like that. Apart from that, I don't see any positives.
Do you, just as a hypothetical, Nigel, do you get excited for a Formula One race?
Yes.
Well, this is just another Formula One race then. Look at it as that.
Get excited for
appease
F1
yourself with
practice
that.
sessions, because it's effectively taking up a practice session and replacing that with a race. I like practice sessions. It's probably my favourite F1 work, or up there, just reporting on practice sessions. It's quite nice, more relaxed. You get to listen to the banter on BBC Radio, but you know, it's you can't replacing that with a race.
I think you've both kind of persuaded me to like it more. I'm still.
Yeah, I mean, Adam and I both started this by saying we're reserving judgment. I think we've come across more optimistic just because of your pessimism. But
But F1, if you do want to employ us as hype men for this new system, then please get in touch. I'm on
my
Twitter
phone number is
Dickinson01. Freddie's phone number is 07806. No, I don't know it.
It's not an 8 number. That costs tons. But yeah, I think yeah, I'm going to be more interested in this. Say it's Silverstone. We don't know, but say it's Silverstone. I'm going to be more interested in every day of that weekend than I would be, say, the Austrian Grand Prix beforehand, which is, say, a boring Friday and an interesting Saturday and Sunday. This is an interesting Friday, interesting Saturday, interesting Sunday. So I'm looking at this and going, for the whole weekend, there's more to this. I'm going to have, particularly for the first one, I'm going to be way more, probably judgmental, but way more interested in what's going on. And there'll be so many new elements to get used to. We, as Formula One fans, get so hyped up and crazy about a driver sitting in a different car. And that's because it's change and difference. Yeah, exactly. It's change, it's difference. And this is change and difference. So let's embrace change. Let's not be stuck in the mud. And maybe change will be terrible.
But it's not the right way to go about it.
Nigel, what's the right way to go about it?
You both know my way about the format.
No,
the listener might not.
What I would do is have 4 or 5 different formats across the season, but not this format, because this one.
Yeah, but what are the 4 or 5 formats then? Pitch us the formats.
Got your normal format, as it is now, and then say international venues, I would have double headers where there's not many support races. I would change Q3 so that the cars.
So when you say double header, what do you mean? Do you mean over 2 weekends or
2 Grand Prix, like Formula E? Yeah.
On a Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd have that because IndyCar do it as well. I would have
like qualifying in the morning. Qualifying in the morning, race in the afternoon. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, something like that. I'll change Q3 so that the cars go out one by one, and so the top 10 get a proper shootout. More sponsors, more TV time. We get to see each car's lap. Get to see them on the ragged edge, because at the moment we only see half a lap or 1 lap of Hamilton or Verstappen.
That's true.
And then there's lots of tyre strategic things I'd change as well. So I've got a few different things in mind, but that's only if I have a Keynes power, which is never going to happen.
Oh, who knows? Keep your fingers crossed. But yeah, like there's myriad of changes that could be made, and this is a gateway to changes, hopefully. And maybe something like you put forward there. Maybe we'll go to Singapore in 2025 and have 2 races there. Maybe over one weekend. Who knows? But it's a start to change in Formula One. I like that.
I think I hope that one of the, going back to what I said at the start, I hope that one of the America's circuits has it, and that we get an evening Friday night qualifying, because it, as a sports fan, that is what I like. I think particularly Premiership Rugby, the Friday night game is kind of always, and it's just a feeling, you know, you kind of, like F1, you've got the feeling of, you know, in the summer and the European leg, you can just kind of relate to that. And as a sports fan, I do, you know, Friday night sport is something that I like, and Friday Night Lights did very well as a book and a TV show or a movie, can't remember, even though I've not watched the movie / TV show. But yeah, I'd love to see some Friday night F1 qualifying, so fingers crossed for
I'll be positive. It's not a reverse grid, and I'm happy about that. So I'm positive about that.
I mean, it's not fitting all of the cars with machine guns and nunchucks, but
but lots of people like
that's something to definitely be negative about. You can be negative about them fitting them with machine guns.
It's not
paintball Formula One. I think I'm going to give you guys 2 more questions on this. First question, just general change for Formula One. What would you think about midweek races? Like you say, you're going about this Friday night. Do you think, I don't know, say you got Monday night football, that kind of thing, or FA Cup Wednesdays and Champions League in the week? Do you think it would be really cool to have like a Formula One week where you have like a practice session and then qualifying all in the evening, and then you build up the week and you have sort of a festival atmosphere with, like, I don't know, Thursday night Grand Prix?
Well, so that's a bit of what cricket does as well, with kind of T20, especially domestic cricket T20. I think that was my idea to solve the calendar problems last year, just have all 21 scheduled races in like 3 months, so there'd just be like, you just have like a race on Sunday and Wednesday every week until like October or November.
It is a bit like a residency.
I think, yeah, if it was in the summer holidays, I think that would be quite good. Do I don't know how much it'd add, actually, thinking about it. I kind of don't.
It's more like sitting at home with a beer watching the Formula One rather than coming in and having it before your Sunday lunch. That's more how I would see it. And it's trying to.
I don't have Sunday lunches or drink beer, so neither of those.
Oh, fine, having cider instead of your chips. What I'm getting at is kind of like taking Formula One from that Sunday afternoon watch with your granddad sport to more of like a cool bar kind of sport. No, I know, but you know what I'm saying? From that kind of like sort of quite pedestrian Sunday afternoon to a more exciting midweek kind of prospect. Does that sort of ring true with you guys, or am I barking up the wrong tree with this proposal?
I think the reason kind of football and NFL and whatever other, you know, cricket and those sports that you've listed work is because, like football, you've got Monday night football after a weekend of play, and I kind of think to me that's how it works. You've kind of got a bit in the week to like get excited for, or split it up, or it kind of spreads across more weekends. More, you know, like spreads across more of the week. Whereas F1, I don't think it would really work like that, unless you've got kind of like a triple header of a race on Sunday, a race on Wednesday, and then a race on the next Sunday. That might be quite fun.
But Berlin Formula E, they did that kind of thing.
Doesn't work well.
No, everyone was shattered and was going to die.
I thought it Freddie. Would, didn't.
Yes, I was shattered, and I was just writing qualifying and race reports and the odd press release report every now and again. I was absolutely shattered after doing, I think I did like about 20 articles in about 5 days or something. But
yeah, I kind of don't know how much it'd add if it was kind of on its own. I think if you had kind of, like a week of F1 with 3 races, and that would be quite fun. But I think that's my thoughts.
But my quick answer is it depends on the gap between races, because you know me, I think there's too many races anyway. So you know, it kind of depends how big of a gap there is in between the races.
Yeah, it's a bit NASCAR playoff and that kind of thing. A bit like super festival kind of thing. And like, unless you do like big gaps, and because every Grand Prix they want to be a Super Bowl, they want to be an event. But if you have so many, it liquidates that possibility. So kind of if you do cram them around and make them a bit more spread out, then it makes Formula One much more of an event but also means that as a podcast, we have less to talk about in some weeks. So you've got to weigh it up. And I think Formula One are weighing that up.
I think if there was a secondary F1 series, not F2, but kind of another, like a championship to F1's Premier League, I think that would work. So you could have like the kind of tier 2 race with like Nico Hulkenberg in, like 20 Nico Hulkenbergs on Wednesday or Thursday, and then that'd like lead into the F1 weekend on the actual weekend. I think that'd work. I don't think Formula 2 or Formula 3 would be able to carry it on their own. Or if you pair it with another,
it's essentially that though, isn't it? It's essentially a Formula 2 in all but name, as Formula 2 is called now what it is, but it's essentially a second class series that's there for more exhibition kind of in the week. It kind of would take away from it a bit, to be honest, I would think, with that. The second final question I'm going to ask you is what tracks do you think this is going to be at? The tracks that were floated as the rumours over the past few months have been Silverstone, Monza, and Interlagos. There seems no reason for that not to take place, apart from there are a lot of rumours about some of the America's Grand Prix in October, November not necessarily taking place, such as Interlagos. Mexico's one there's still question marks over. I'm not sure about COTA having question marks, but it's still obviously, global situations dependent. So just quickly, tracks you want it or tracks you think?
I think COTA for the Americas one, and then the other two European ones that you mentioned. I think it would work well at COTA, as it would Interlagos actually, because they're all 3 or 4 are good tracks for overtaking, and you would be able to mix it up. And as you say, America's got kind of less standard weekends, kind of motorsport weekends across all their series anyway. So I think that might be quite. I think COTA would work well, but I think it's you've got to nail the track. Like if you do it in Abu Dhabi or Paul Ricard, people are going to be shooting their TVs.
Nigel?
Well, if it's a good format, it should work at any track. That's my answer.
Go away.
F1's a good format fundamentally, but it doesn't work at every single track.
Format or formula? It's about formula, good format, I think. So I think I would like to see it at Red Bull Ring at Austria, but I don't think it's going to be there.
Or Bahrain.
Or Bahrain, but we've had Bahrain.
Yes.
Which
is kind of more generally. Existentially, I think it would work well at Bahrain.
From an existential perspective, it's not quite at Bahrain, but it could be there. Who knows?
Bahrain Outer.
How many laps? It's a sprint race in itself.
If the Americans drop off.
I think we'll talk about if the Americans drop off in due course. But I mean, like Nigel says, if it's a good format, it will work. And we don't know if it's going to be a good format yet. It's obviously decided by committee. So we'll see how it goes and watch this space in 2 or 3 months' time. So now we're going to talk about a few little calendar bits of news. Suzuka, the Japanese Grand Prix venue, has had its deal extended for another 3 years. We're going to have Japanese Grand Prix there until 2024. Yay.
Yes. I think Suzuka's a weird one because I don't enjoy driving it on the game, and it's kind of, but I don't know, and it's never kind of sprung out to me as like, a classic track, like, I really like Suzuka, but it's just nice. It just feels like a really like a cornerstone of F1, and it just wouldn't, like, the Japanese fans are incredible, and you sometimes get weather mixing things up there, and we have had good races there over the years. So I think it just feels like such an integral part of F1, and to extend that for another few years is very good, and hopefully looking forward to more good races there. I think it could be quite an interesting one this year as well, with where it is in the calendar, and it could be quite a crucial one between Hamilton and Verstappen.
Yeah, definitely. With Tsunoda on the grid as well. That'll definitely add to something. But I'm a big fan of Suzuka. I absolutely love the track. Yes, the racing hasn't been good in the turbo hybrid era compared to perhaps before. But as a track itself, I think it's arguably the best on the calendar. Arguably.
Suzuka.
Yeah.
As a track, it's Suzuka.
Suzunoda. Can think of a lot of these.
Cool. Yeah, I just echo what you guys have said. It's a track of history in Formula One, obviously, with all the Senna stuff, with the Raikkonen drive, which is kind of thing you get if there was a reverse grid, Nigel. But anyway, not to reopen that debate. I think Suzuka just a grand track. It's just really good.
I was listening to the Beyond the Grid with Kamui Kobayashi, and Tom Clarkson said when there was a story that when Senna was at the height of his fame, then he had to get a helicopter from the hotel to
track hotel,
from the track hotel to the paddock, because he would just be completely mobbed if he tried to walk through, walk the 100 yards or whatever it is between them, which I just think is incredible.
It is one of my favorite F1 stories. Is Kamui Kobayashi's podium at his home Grand Prix. That is one of the most heartwarming F1 podiums there is. And who knows, if we get a Sonoda podium at Suzuka in the next couple of years, that'd be grand.
It feels like a bit of a time capsule in F1 to me.
That's a good way to describe it. It
feels like an old race. It feels like a kind of noughties race still to me. It doesn't feel like it's been massively commercialized, and the track's pretty much the same. It's still quite classic and with a lot of non-tarmac runoff. I think, it's just. It feels like a track where F1 comes first rather than kind of the F1 circus, which I don't think there are really many of those. And, it's fantastic to see it retaining its position. Yeah,
it's a fantastic track. It's a Honda-owned track. So it's a shame that Honda aren't going to be able to compete on it in the next few years. But just Japan and Formula One just go so well together, and the fact that we got another Japanese driver in Formula One and an extended Japanese Grand Prix is just fantastic. I think we can all agree with that. Another little calendar thing that I alluded to before we get onto the big one. If the Brazilian or Mexican Grand Prix don't go ahead, what alternatives are there? Nigel, you mentioned a Bahrain outer happening. Daniel Ricciardo has floated the idea of doing 2 Australian Grand Prix, which is obviously a Grand Prix that missed out on its 2020 slot. So, I don't know, as retribution, give it a second go. Maybe even we go somewhere completely different. I mean, we still haven't had any confirmation of what's taking the Canada slot, which is rumored to be cancelled, but I don't think anything official has been announced yet. So whether there's Turkey is going to jump in or something like that around that point, there are lots and lots and lots and lots of possibilities. But what do you guys think is the best course of action? What do you want to happen, Adam?
Nürburgring would be quite fun after we had a good race there last year. Hockenheim's another track I like. Malaysia isn't going to happen, but I like it. But I don't know. I've been hoping for that for the last 6 years now. I don't really feel like we need another Australian Grand Prix, to be honest. If you're talking about tracks who've lost out by COVID, former Q, and you mentioned Canada there, that's going to miss out on 2 races by the looks of it. So, yeah, I think, I don't know. It feels like to me picking from the same list of substitute Grand Prix that we had last year of Bahrain outer, Turkey, Malaysia, Nürburgring, Hockenheim, Mugello maybe. I think they're all seem like good options, to be honest. I do quite like the American leg in terms of, I think you've got 2 fantastic tracks in terms of COTA and Brazil, and Mexico's not bad. It's middling, but it's, no Paul Ricard to me. It'd be a shame to miss out on that, but there are definitely a lot of good tracks that we could bring in, and I think I'd enjoy a race at any of the ones I've listed.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I hope that none of them get cancelled, because I think we did miss that a little bit last year with the American leg, as Adam pointed out. But I think Adam is right. It is likely to be one of the tracks that stepped in last year. Maybe Jerez might get a chance as well, because it's a little bit warmer than German tracks. And I think there was a little bit of talk about that. But that's the only other one I can think of, other than the ones Adam's mentioned there.
It would be a little bit earlier. I think the US Grand Prix, which is the first one of that leg, is about 2 weeks after the Nürburgring slot last year. But But even so, just go there. It's fun.
Yeah. It's, whenever the Brazilian Grand Prix is, it's like mid-November. Go to.
Freddie had to report on 2 practice sessions that didn't happen, which was it was a great time.
I think
Hamilton didn't go fastest.
I think probably one of the most likely would be, and what I probably would be most on board with, I would say, would be 2 Cotas. Just do Cota twice. I think that would be quite fun.
Do Cota short, which isn't actually that short.
Cota short, where it's just don't use the bits where you can race at. Who knows? Maybe they'll do something like that. We don't know. Obviously, this is months away, and we're speculating on global COVID conditions, and Mexico being a hospital. So who knows? But we'll probably have more news on this in the future. And
I mean, we did just finally on that is we, in our kind of dream calendar episode that we did in January, I think, we mentioned to Road America and Indianapolis that I put forward Indianapolis, and I can't remember which one of you put forward Road America. So there are other tracks in America and FIA Grade 1 tracks in America that could be used. So yeah, but again, 2 Cotas would be grand as well.
There's an entire IndyCar series of tracks that could potentially be mooted, even though they're IndyCar level of safety, not Formula 1 level of safety. But anyway, which is just a whole kettle of fish.
I know it's not IndyCar, but Bristol dirt.
Do it on dirt. Yeah, let's do an F1 dirt race. The actual Grand Prix that we're going to talk about now is actually going ahead. It's another American track. It is the Formula 1 Miami Grand Prix. We're going to Miami. We've got, finally, after years of discussion, a Miami track is happening, and Miami has been put on the calendar officially, a Miami race. And in sort of the first half of 2022, there's going to be a Miami Grand Prix.
Well, it goes even further back than that, because there was the New York Grand Prix muted. So we finally got an American street circuit for the first time since the 80s. I mean, I'm going to be honest, the track's not a looker.
No.
But I think I put this on Twitter that I think any track, bar some exceptions, any track with significant elevation changes automatically twice as good as a pan flat track, because there's only 2 ways that you can change a track, and one is the turns and one is going up and down. So that's my theory. But yeah, I don't know.
Why have you got that theory?
He likes Laguna Seca.
Because like there's 2 ways you can change the track, and one is going side to side and one is going up and down. So if it doesn't have any up and down, then it's automatically half as good.
Whether it goes up or down doesn't make it a good track, does it? Does it improve racing? Does it
makes it a better track to watch? Yeah, it looks better. It's a better track to drive. Makes it a better spectacle to watch someone on board. Obviously, there are exceptions, probably Silverstone being the main one, Canada's another one. But I think in general, if you think of great tracks on the calendar, then most of them have got elevation changes.
I think just the layout of a track makes a track. The layout of a track just makes a track good. We're going down a massive rabbit hole that we don't need to go down here. But yeah, I know what you mean, Adam, about the track not being a looker. It's a bit of a cross between Sochi and Vietnam. That's the one that's been muted, and those 2
what combination.
Those 2 tracks have never been met with praise. So that's never good as a starter. It's gone down the route of let's build a permanent circuit, but try and do it like a street circuit. And I don't know, it's not got much character to it. The character to it is that it's in Miami.
Why wouldn't you try and do a street circuit like a permanent circuit? It's a really bizarre way to go around it.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, but as you just said, we have to give it a chance, don't we? We can't judge it or anything. We've got to give it a chance.
Yes, and we are.
I was giving Vietnam a chance as well. But
for the next 10 years of this contract.
Yeah, I don't know. I think having the 2 races in America is massive, because it's a big country. It's a big market for F1, and you're still kind of missing out the West Coast and the Northeast, which are massive population hubs in America, but adding Florida in is a very different area and catchment to Austin. So, and I guess, I don't know You might have people coming in a bit from the Caribbean, probably not actually, but
Miami's has had a history of motorsport. There have been kart races there. There've been IndyCar races there until the early 2000s. There was a Formula E race there that was a bit of a failure in 2015 because it was around because of
Nico Prost won,
and that says all you need to know. But they were still building the track before it started because of so many issues with Miami City Commission. And that's where the stumbling blocks have been for this Grand Prix. The original track that was also not great, to be honest, in terms of looking at it, went over a bridge which looked cool in the middle of Miami around another stadium there. I want to say the NBA stadium there for that team in Miami. I want to say Miami Reds. Miami Heat. So it was going to go around that stadium, and everyone was like, no. And then lots of people apparently got angry and were going to sue. So then this Hard Rock Stadium, which is owned by the guy who was sort of trying to get Formula One to Miami, is now put it in their estate of land, which is kind of sort of not downtown city Miami. It's more like suburbs of Miami, which is, I don't know, if you've ever seen a Louis Theroux documentary, it seems like it's that kind of part of Miami rather than like the cool
Top Gear US special
party. Yeah, it's not the party capital of Miami. But it is in a stadium around there, and everyone's gonna get Hard Rock Cafe caps.
Miami is a big. I think in terms of NFL, there are probably a few cities that can attract players based off the city, and Miami is one of those. And yeah, I think two things. Firstly, why do Americans call it downtown when it's not? It's like the center. Like downtown should be away, like downwind of the town or whatever.
You go downtown.
But it's stupid. Anyway, and the second one is to add some elevation, and could they put in like a Cooper Cape type like tunnel in the sea? So like you go, so you kind of like do the track on land, and then you kind of go down into this tube and just like race around on the seafloor, like past lobsters and stuff, and then come back up. Other than that, I've not really got much to add. Yeah, like see how it goes. I think that's what we should always do. But it's kind of, I don't know how much it will add. It feels a bit like maybe the Korean Grand Prix or something, where it's like, oh, we're going to Korea, yay, and then it's like, oh, the racing. And I don't know, it feels a bit like it'll be kind of that. It'll be cool, for the first time to be like, oh, we're at Miami, and that'll be great. And then the racing potentially might not wow, but we'll see.
Yeah, I always enjoy new venues anyway, really. Even if it looks, apart from one or two, but yeah.
Which ones?
What was that?
Which ones?
I think we all agree on the ones if we see it at the same time. Don't try that.
Saudi Arabia.
Yes, that's one of them. And the other one?
Sprint qualifying.
Turkey, Sochi, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain.
Russia.
Yeah, Sochi.
Yeah. I thought it was Saudi and Arabia.
Yeah.
Well,
apart from them, yeah.
What have you got? Is it Arabia?
Yeah.
You're right. We've got to give it a go. And who knows? Crazy races like we've seen in Imola can't necessarily be dictated by the track. They can be dictated by external circumstances. And like you look at the first Baku race, it was so boring, but then the next one was massively exhilarating. So we could go there and have some cracking races and some awful races, and you get that with every track. You mentioned Silverstone earlier, Nigel, how it was so boring last year, when Silverstone in previous years has been absolutely brilliant. So there's just going to be a case of on the day. But I'm excited. I think like Adam said, expanding the American market is the right thing to do, particularly with the Netflix generation. And if they do it early in the year, then they can really get some hype from Drive to Survive in ticket sales. If they say, oh, here's Series 4 of Drive to Survive, and then, oh, look at this, the Miami Grand Prix is happening in 3 months' time, and we've got tons of tickets for it, then you will get a lot of people saying, oh, yeah, let's do that, especially if they match it with spring break. Then, yeah, fantastic. They'll probably do it around Canada time and do what they did with the old Indy Grand Prix. Sort of have 1 week you've got Canada, 1 week you've got Miami. And I just think that's from a business perspective, that's a really, really, really good idea.
I think I'm braced for Daniel Ricciardo kind of walking around Miami as that, because he seems to be kind of the most, I guess maybe Lewis, but probably Lewis more 5 years ago, seemed to be the most Americanized drivers. So yeah, I'm kind of braced for that. And then, oh, by the way, there's tickets on sale.
Can't wait to see Will Smith start the race.
And the other thing is kind of, I wish they could make the stadium more of a like feature, because I think just going around it, like, you know, the stadium itself, like, it's a good stadium, but it's not really striking to look at from the outside. I think something like Azerbaijan do with the castle section kind of, or Mexico with their stadium section, is that it feels like part of the circuit. And I think it would benefit from doing something like that, because that would give it something different. Like Sochi goes around the Winter Olympic Park, but that, you know, it doesn't have that much effect. I don't know. I think that would be a way to go around it. And the other thing is, like, from the onboards, I don't know how much kind of thought they put into the renderings about the atmosphere and the stands, but there didn't seem to be that many. Like, yeah. I don't know, it like Zandvoort or something, you can really, there seems to be a lot of area, like, oh yeah, and you go into a fan bit now, whereas it felt a bit more like Abu Dhabi, where it's just like, oh, and there's a stand, there's another stand. I don't know.
I imagine that will come with time. We don't know. I mean, we don't know the dates, so we don't know the correspondence with the NFL season. But they could maybe have such a super fan zone in the stadium. We know how fantastic American fan engagement is, and if you've got that stadium packed with people when the session's not on, you get full-on drivers coming into the session, like speaking to everyone, and then going back, and then these people leave the stadium and go to watch the race at the track. Then that could be a really novel idea, or you just have it as like a fan shopping center, not a fan village, like a fan city inside the stadium, and that kind of thing. I mean,
track going through it.
Yeah, all that. I mean,
that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, and they did that in 2017. The Race of Champions was at a stadium in Miami. It wasn't at this stadium. It was at the, I've just looked it up. It was the Marlins Park Baseball Stadium in Miami, and that series. I mean, it's gone a bit dead a bit recently, but that's proved that you can go to a stadium that's primarily a grass stadium and build a racetrack in it temporarily. That's a good little track. So
yeah, and get Pascal Verlaine to roll over.
Yeah, miss 2 races and give Antonio Giovinazzi his debut. It's possible to do a temporary track. I mean, it all depends on the date of this race. Adam, you know more about when the NFL season is on a downturn. So
if it's in May, then that'll be perfect. The NFL season's like September to December or start of January, unless you make the playoffs. So there's lots of scope to get in around that. I mean, Speedway, I know it's not the same because it's an oval, but Speedway takes over the Principality Stadium in Cardiff and just completely turns that into a dirt track rather than a rugby pitch. So yeah, I really hope, because I think if they can make something of that will add character to the circuit. That'll be kind of something you can put a finger on. It's like, oh yeah, Miami Grand Prix, that's got the race going through the middle of a packed stadium. I think that'd be fantastic.
I think you're right, and I think with time will come changes, and hopefully with we can have some really interesting times in Miami. It'd be great. It's a really cool place for Formula One to be. So moving on to another, I think, quite cool place for Formula One to be, which is the Autodromo Internacional do Algarve. We have the Portuguese Grand Prix this weekend, which we're previewing in this podcast. We haven't got much time left. So we're going to talk about the big news that's going to that, and that is, we haven't got much time left. I'm looking at my clock of life.
Like the IT crowd episode.
Yeah, exactly, like the IT crowd. My phone's going to buzz and I'm going to have a heart attack. But moving on to less dark topics, Callum Ilott is going to do an FP1. Woohoo! He was, Adam's already alluded to the Nürburgring rained off sessions earlier in this episode. And that was when Callum Ilott was due to do a practice session with the Haas Formula One team as a Ferrari junior. And now, after doing a few out-of-season tests with Ferrari and Alfa Romeo, he's going to be doing a FP1 session with Alfa Romeo at the Portuguese Grand Prix, as he is now their second reserve driver when Robert Kubica isn't there. He's Robert Kubica's reserve driver, essentially. So, Callum Ilott, hooray!
Yeah, it's good. I'm happy for him. I think or Halloumi Lot, as he could do if he wanted to partner with a Halloumi brand. But until that day comes, it just felt really gutting, like that he didn't get a chance to go on the Nürburgring weekends, because being able to do. Freddie's laughing and now just
Kalumi. I mean, where the hell did that come from? You're right, it is gutting. Carry on.
That's just such a, like, even if he never makes it to F1 as a full-time driver, just being able to have raced on a weekend is, something special, and that he'll always be able to remember. And it's different from doing post-season tests or tyre tests or whatever. So really happy that he's got the chance to do that, and he's better than some of the drivers we've had on F1 weekend in the last few years. So yeah, happy that he gets to do it. I mean, what does it mean? Probably not that much in terms of it won't affect Alfa Romeo's weekend too much, and it probably won't affect his F1 career too much unless he bins it on the first corner. So but let's just be happy for the lad. And it's another Brit in F1, which we've not got enough of, or we've not had enough of over F1's history. Been a big dearth of British drivers.
Yeah, Lando Norris is only the 700th podium for a British driver, so we haven't had enough. Nigel, what do you think about Callum?
Why not?
That's a question. I mean, like I said, I guess that's a good thing, I guess, but it's not really anything major to me, to be honest.
Cool. Okay, so moving on to something that's major to Nigel. Last year's Portuguese Grand Prix was one of the races where Max Verstappen was pretty close to the two Mercedes drivers on a track which is just a normal track in what you'd think. So, predictions. Do we have any possibility of knowing what's going to happen this weekend? Looking at the other two weekends, I think not, but Adam does. Go, Adam. Tell us what's going to happen.
Mercedes and Red Bull are going to still be a decent margin ahead of everyone else.
Tell us more specifically in terms of positions and seconds.
2/10 is not that much of a margin, is it?
No, but I mean, I don't think they'll be challenging them for the win, is what I mean. I mean that's what I think will happen. In going deeper than that, I kind of didn't prepare for that, but I'll predict Hamilton. I think Hamilton's going to win the race. I think it's going to be that back and forth over the season, and I think he's had a bad weekend, but I don't think he'll kind of double up on that, and I think he'll get the most out of what he can make from the weekend in the car, the way the car's set up and all of that. And it still feels like we don't really know in terms of kind of relating to last season. There seems to be a big change in the relative strength and weaknesses of the Red Bull and Mercedes, as well as the kind of absolute gap between them. So, it's just another kind of data point, really. It will probably, I don't know whether it will give us a hint of how Barcelona will look the next round after, because they are a bit more similar to each other. But are we doing official predictions now, or?
I mean, I just want to say I think the next couple of weeks are going to be crucial, because yes, Verstappen was a bit close last year, but Hamilton romped away with one of his best drives of the season.
Sainz was close at one point.
He was in the lead, wasn't he, after the wet, chaotic start on the new track surface, which is still quite new. We'll see how that changes things this year. But Mercedes and Red Bull were Mercedes were very good in Portugal and especially Spain last year, and throughout the turbo hybrid era in Spain. So I think if Red Bull do have an advantage or can match them at the next two weekends, because it's back to back, I think that sets Red Bull up very nicely for the rest of the season. But I think looking at the pace from so far, the middle sectors, Red Bull had a slight advantage in Imola and Bahrain, which are both the twistiest parts of those tracks. So it suggests Red Bull still have a slight advantage in the high-speed corners. But then again, Mercedes look to have an advantage with the tyre wear. But then Verstappen looks faster in qualifying or Red Bull. So I think it's one of those cases where Verstappen and Perez might look out the front row, or Verstappen might be on pole position, but then I think Hamilton might have a slight advantage in the race, which is exciting.
I think just to jump on that, I'd say the opposite. I think if Mercedes are with Red Bull or close to Red Bull, that'll probably be a win for them. I don't know. It feels like kind of coming into the season and at Bahrain, then Red Bull seemed to be kind of clearly faster. I think, I don't know. It seemed to me that they looked the stronger team and with all the momentum. So I think if Mercedes are like level pegging with them over the next 2 weekends, I'd spin that as a win for them, because in Bahrain they won.
Stronger. So
I think in Bahrain they won.
Red Bull need an advantage going into the summer.
But I think in Bahrain, Mercedes kind of won through the strategy and through Hamilton just pulling out a worldie, whereas, you know, they were clearly the slower car there. So I think it still kind of remains to be seen where they're at. I don't know. That's how I view it. But
there were some kind of strategy conversations last time out, whether it would be a 1-stop or a 2-stop. We don't know. In Portugal, that is. We don't know at all what the situation is going to be now. Nigel says the track surface is relatively new still. And yeah, we're going to kind of figure that out as it comes, as it goes. And I think that's the same for the whole thing. Probably most of the races this season. We don't know who's going to be on top, but it's likely to be Hamilton and Verstappen, who are both on top. So I'm going to say that it's going to be both of them. From a statistics point of view, it would be nice to see Hamilton take his 100th pole at the track where he officially took the all-time win record, if that makes sense. It's a good track for him in that regard. So it'd be nice to see him take his 100th pole this weekend. But I really won't be upset if he doesn't take pole and we have an interesting race and all of that. So
it feels like that won't happen just because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like one of those things that, like, you know, there's not F1 gods, but there just seems to be these when everything's set up for something to go one way. Often it doesn't. I think I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it a lot more because of the way that Mercedes and Red Bull are so close than I thought I would be when it got announced. I wasn't really a fan of last year's race, so when it was mooted over the winter, I was thinking, oh great, you know, I'm not massively hyped about that, but lots changed since then, and the season being the way it is, or the way it's gone so far, I think it is. I'm really excited to see again. And it's another new track. It's different, significantly different to Imola and Bahrain. So it's, I think after these races we'll have a big
knowledge
picture. Yeah.
I was just going to make my last point on the track. Like Adam says, they are very different to Bahrain and Imola because you're turning for a lot longer. The radius of the corners is a lot longer than Bahrain and Imola. So we might see a difference there between Red Bull and Mercedes as Freddie turns around the moon. And also we're going to see the C1 tyre. I know, tyres. Wow. So that maybe Mercedes might have some kind of advantage there. Perhaps we'll see.
The C1 tyre, the cone, that would be amazing. So yes, I'm going to get you to do some random predictions. Who's going to be 13th in the race? Nigel.
Alonso.
Adam.
Vettel, which would probably be a good race for him.
I was going to say Vettel as well, so I will now change that to Kimi Räikkönen. Who is going to be 4th? Adam.
Perez.
Bottas.
I'm going to say Leclerc. And who is going to be 2nd? Nigel.
Hamilton.
Adam.
Räikkönen. No. Verstappen.
I will say Bottas. For some reason, just to be different. And that's all you're getting, folks. Oh yeah, well, Norris finished 5th.
3rd.
Oh. Adam.
6th.
Okay, there we go. Those are some predictions we'll forget, and now we're going to move on to something everyone's been waiting for. I've been waiting for it. Adam, have you been waiting for it?
Yes, I've been counting down the days. I've had an advent calendar type quiz calendar thing.
Nigel, have you been giving Adam chocolate for his advent calendar?
Yeah.
Nice. How whimsical. We did a quiz prior to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in which Nigel only prepared 2 questions, so it was a draw. between Adam and I. So since then, it's been decided there's going to be a decider. And seeing as this podcast has gone on for long enough, the fact that it's a one decider question kind of makes sense, because this podcast is already overshot in terms of time because we've had so much to talk about and we've talked about it really well. Thank you very much for listening. So we're now going to do this big decider question. Nigel, over to you.
Thank you very much, Freddie Coates. It is the decider of the second round of the quiz. And the topic, the same format as last time, because last time it worked really well.
Can you just explain the format to the viewers?
We should. That's a good idea. So basically, Freddie and Adam take turns to say an answer to the topic, and they're both going to get 3 lives.
Oh, cool. I thought we were going to do sudden death.
No, I'll give you 3 lives, and then when you run out of lives, that's it. The one person
shot
wins. So let's get on with it. What topics do you kind of want apart from F1?
Apart from F1? What?
Yeah.
I don't know. Premiership rugby, NFL will probably play to my strengths. History of Preston, Rico Arena, history of Wasps.
Oh, I've got
objects on my desk.
I've got Line of Duty, actually. No, I've got a list of red flagged Formula 1 races. So since on Sunday, a couple of weeks ago, Max Verstappen won in Imola, didn't he? And there was a red flag. And there's been quite a few red flagged races in F1. In fact, there have been, let me find it because I've not wrote it down. I think there's been like 74 or something, but I can't remember. Anyway, there's been
let's get on with this.
So I want Freddie and Adam to name the winners of a race that's been red flagged in F1. So who wants to start?
Verstappen.
Hamilton.
Rosberg.
Vettel.
Gasly.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Vettel's only won 1 red flagged race, you know. That's quite incredible.
Is that the Monaco one?
It was the Monaco one, yeah. One of my favourite Monaco races ever.
Button.
Yes.
Canada. No, not Canada. Malaysia.
Yeah,
Canada. And Malaysia.
Yeah.
Ricardo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Azerbaijan.
Prost. Alan Prost.
Nico. No.
Oh, Alan Prost, yeah, that's right.
The second Nico Prost reference in this podcast.
Alonso.
Yes, Alonso.
Yeah, Nürburgring 2007. Trying to think of some red flag races. Damn. Damon Hill.
The challenge.
Yep, Damon Hill. Quite a few times, actually.
Schumi.
Yeah, Michael Schumacher. Loads of times as well.
Mika Hakkinen.
Oh, Mika Hakkinen is not on the list.
Damn. Okay, 1 life down. Right, I've got to come up with another one now, don't I?
Are we doing it like that?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. Let's do it like
Okay.
that.
Although I suppose you have the advantage now, Adam, if you want to go.
Do I?
I don't know.
I know that it's not Hakkinen.
Yes, exactly.
I guess that's
So
the
do
advantage.
I. Be great if I said Hakkinen again. Mario Andretti.
Sorry.
This is a massive
No.
punt. No. So 1976 Fuji wasn't red flagged. Okay.
Oh, you idiot.
Diamond Blast.
It's not a driver.
Go away and try not to swear. Kimi Raikkonen.
What's that? Kimi Raikkonen?
Yeah,
I'm
not convinced by it.
Yeah, he shouldn't. He's not won one.
There we go.
Yeah, so that ended quite quickly. More quick than I thought. Adam, do you want to see how many you can get with your 3 lives?
Yeah, okay. Senna would be the standard.
Yeah, Senna, yeah.
And then there was the Fisichella Brazil win. So I'll go Fisichella.
Yeah, very good answer. Yeah.
Very good.
Herbert, because of the crazy race he won for Stewart.
Yeah.
Was that race red flagged?
1995 Italy.
Oh, that one.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not Stewart. Yeah,
Not-
but still.
I think that kind of brings me to the end, so now I'll just go through names. Villeneuve.
That's what I was doing.
Which Villeneuve?
Jacques
Villeneuve. Yes.
Okay.
Which
And
race
then I'll
did he
just,
win?
I guess, run through. Mansell,
Yes.
PK.
PK, yes, as well. On a roll.
Freddie attempts to signal his boredom with proceedings. Lauda.
Do I? Oh, I didn't mean
thought you
to.
were yawning. I thought you were stretching and
Yeah,
yawning.
Lauda's won.
Okay.
I mean, this is very impressive.
Go with the Freddie Alan Jones tactic.
Say Alan Jones.
Yes.
Yes. 1980s Canadian Grand Prix.
Why the hell did I say Mario Andretti?
I have
These
no
are all
idea.
I think
massive
Adam's
names.
cheating.
I don't think he is. I think he's just saying names and it's fair enough.
Okay.
I thought we were
Peroni.
doing-
Didier
Peroni's a good one.
Peroni.
Guess Nigel will feedback on whether he is.
No.
Okay.
I thought he caused one of the main red flags when he broke both his legs. Didier Peroni. He should have won the championship that year. Arguably, Gilles Villeneuve should have won the championship that year.
Gilles Villeneuve.
Yeah, Gilles Villeneuve, yeah.
Just name drivers.
Okay.
Mark Webber.
No.
Mark Webber's
I think
not,
so.
no.
No, he's only won like 9 Grand Prix.
Frentzen.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
99 France, wasn't that? Or not?
No.
Okay.
So I think that's your 3 lives there, Adam. Do
Yep.
you want to know the rest that you might have
There's
said?
like,
Or might
it's like
have
45 or something, isn't there?
Yeah, so you said Ralf Schumacher has won, 2001 Germany.
He's what
David
I meant when I said
Coulthard.
Schumi. No.
David Coulthard on a couple of occasions.
Oh, of course.
DC.
And Thierry Boutsen, 1989 Australia. Seb Prost, Seb Mansell, Ted Lauda. Did you say PK?
Yeah, he said PK.
Yeah.
Not
John
PK
Watson
Jr.
in Detroit, 1982. Carlos Reutemann in 1981, Belgium.
Oh, I said him in the last. Oh, that's annoying.
Jacques Lafitte in 79, Argentina. Roddy Peterson, James Hunt.
Oh, of course, James Hunt. British Grand Prix 1976.
Didn't he get stripped of that, though?
Not in that,
He
no,
got
but
it
they
reinstated.
reinstated it.
Did they?
Yeah, even technically, you shouldn't have got it.
Vittorio Brambilla,
Yeah.
Emerson Fittipaldi, Jochen Mass, Peter Revson, Jackie Stewart, and Johnny Parsons. That was the Indy 500. That kind of counts.
Yeah.
Those are the drivers.
I couldn't remember how far they went back. That was kind of why I stopped at the 80s, because I couldn't.
Yeah, you always take a punt
second
on.
red
They just
flag was in 1971. So before
Right.
1971, there was only one.
and that's the
Yeah.
IndyCar one, then, right?
Yeah, the 500 one.
Yeah, so I didn't want to kind of go too far back, but
I was just trying to think. I was just trying to think of famous wet races, really, because that's more often than not if there's a famous wet race. But then, like, then again, once we got Verstappen, Hamilton, and Rosberg out of the way, like the ones I remember from 2016, it's Rosberg in Melbourne, Rosberg in Belgium, Hamilton
Rosberg
at Brazil.
Spa.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
Hamilton at Bahrain, yeah. So yeah.
Oh, that's that. Well done, Adam.
Adam gets that worthwhile point.
The lead
come December. Wow.
Yeah.
Next time it will be Adam versus Nigel. I'll write a quiz for that one. I'll come up with maybe an interesting format for the España Barcelona Grand Prix. It's not what it's called, and it's not how it sounds. So we'll be back to review the Portuguese Grand Prix, the Grande Premio of Heineken in Portugal. We will hopefully be telling you of another really interesting battle between Red Bull and Mercedes. And judging by our complete inability to determine which car will be fastest, it seems more than likely that will be the case. One of them will win. Who will it be? Adam or Nigel? We don't know. Neither of them will probably win the Grand Prix, but Nigel just pointed at me for some reason. So, so I'll take it. I'm going to fly to Portugal now. Thanks very much for listening or watching this podcast. You can find us all on our social medias. I am at FredCoates1999 on Twitter. Adam is at Adam Dickinson01. Nigel is at Nigel C. Journo. We all spout rubbish on there, particularly Nigel. So go and give us a follow, where we will also bait Nigel out some more. We've got our group Twitter account, which is at WingingItF1, where we will also bully Nigel, and you can get in on the act as well. If you write a tweet, tag him in it for no apparent reason and see what happens. It won't be that interesting. So thanks for watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, iTunes, Acast, Google Podcasts, or somewhere else somehow. We hope to see you again next time. Goodbye, my friends.